So, on this session of Retirement Crusaders, we're going to be talking about how you may be able to retire earlier. You may need less than you think because your retirement spending may be lower than you think.
Hmm.
But before we dig in, remember in the description below, if we mention any products or services, we may get compensation from those vendors. So we just want to fully disclose that that's a possibility.
That's the way the Retirement Crusaders roll, Larry. Full
Absolutely.
disclosure.
So conventional wisdom is that you'll need 70 or 80% of your income, your pre-retirement income in retirement, plus inflation. That may be incorrect and it may be dangerous. So the experts will show you a chart like this, which shows that for most people, the forecast is you need 70 to 80% of your income in your retirement years. The problem with this is it may be more than you'll need, and it impacts when you think you can retire. It impacts how you invest in preparation for retirement because you may invest more aggressively thinking you need more, and it creates worry and fear. Wall Street loves to always tell you you don't have enough, and the fear helps them get you to save more and get you to place more assets in Wall Street, because the more assets you place in funds with advisors, the more Wall Street earns.
Larry, believe it or not, Larry, when I was working with individual clients, many times people would come to me, and even though I showed them that they might need less than they think, they came to me with this conventional wisdom, and they were telling me that they had to spend a lot less now, and they said they could never afford to retire.
Oh no!
So they were going to work all their life, so needlessly, for no good reason. So I'm glad we're doing this video.
Right. So we'll show what actually happens for most people in reality. So not as a forecast, but what actually happens. So here's a chart from the Employee Benefit Research Institute. It shows that 2 years into retirement, 40% of the people are spending 80% or less of their pre-retirement income. Once they get 6 years into retirement, we've got more than half of the people are spending 80% or less in their pre-retirement income. Now, this doesn't apply, obviously, to everybody. There's some people that are spending more. So there's about 1 out of 4 people that are spending 120% more than their retirement income. I guess they joined a better country club. I don't know, but some people
Larry,
do spend more.
When you retire, every day is a Saturday, right? Every day is a Saturday.
you can have a tea time every day, right?
That's right.
Okay. And so we see that there's a majority of the people, their spending tends to be less than this conventional wisdom of you've got to have, say, 80% of your pre-retirement income. Now, that chart looked at 2 years and 6 years. It did not show what happens further out, say 10 years after retirement.
And that's critically important to look at that, because people aren't retiring just for 2 years or 6 years. I don't really understand why they'd even show that data without also showing 10 years, 20 years, right? I mean, that's what people listening to this, watching this video are interested in.
Right.
Not just 2 years or 6 years.
Right. And let's discuss that and take a look. Now, there's 5 or 6 reasons we thought about why people's spending actually goes down as time goes further out. First of all, maybe you have no life insurance premium because you canceled your life insurance or feel you don't need it. Secondly, disability insurance, which is for when your working years. Now, it's possible you may have long-term care insurance instead of disability insurance, so there may not be any savings there. Your car insurance premium goes down. Mine just dropped 1/3. I was surprised to get my latest bill. I must be getting old.
Canahara.
Yeah, your housing costs go down. Why? Not necessarily, but a lot of retirees move to a smaller residence, and so they have smaller housing costs. Maybe your mortgage is paid off because it's been 30 years and the mortgage is done. Your travel tends to go down with age because, let's face it, at 80 years old, you're not trotting around the globe so much anymore. And your household expenses are less. You're probably not buying, new furniture and other things for your household because you bought all those things in the years past. Now, the one thing that may go up is your healthcare costs. However, even though that will increase, it doesn't offset the decreases in almost every other area of your life. So here's some data from kitsis.com, and it talks about your essential spending will drop by 10% per decade. So essential, food, energy, housing. Your leisure drops by 20% per decade because your travel tends to go down as you age. Your healthcare is the one thing that increases, stay at 10% per decade. So overall, you're spending less, with that one exception being healthcare. Now, let me show you an example of a couple and give you a little more detail of what this looks like. Here's a couple, and we're going to show three scenarios. So you see three columns here, okay? So Jim and Barbara are a couple. In scenario number one, they went to their financial advisor and they assumed they would need to spend $60,000 a year, adjusted for a 3% inflation a year. And if they started with a portfolio of about $500,000, within 22 years, they would have exhausted the portfolio. So they did the logical thing. They said, well, let's see the forecast. If we start by spending here in column 2, 50,000. And now we see that if they start at 50,000, and again, adjusting for 3% inflation, their portfolio lasts to age 95. Much better situation. However, let's look at column 3 here. When they learned about this idea that their spending will likely go down as they age, they asked their financial advisor to run a scenario looking at what if for the first 10 years they did spend that $60,000 a year, but for the second 10 years, they dropped their spending to $50,000 for years 11 through 20. And then for the next 30 years, their spending dropped to 40,000. Next 10 years, their spending dropped to $40,000 a year. Now what we see is they get to enjoy that higher spending early in their retirement. Right. And not only does their portfolio last for 30 years, it still had a pretty good balance at the end of 30 years. So maybe now their portfolio lasts 35 or 40 years. So this
is Larry, what? I'm sorry. What this is very powerful, and it seems like it really reflects more honestly of what's really going on. So why doesn't Wall Street show these kinds of illustrations from the beginning?
Well, Wall Street always wants you to save more. It's in their interest to tell you don't have enough, so you save more and put more in your funds and everything else, because the bigger the assets Wall Street has, the more fees they're able to collect. Now, in defense of many financial advisors, they may not mention this because their thinking is, look, if I explain to my clients they're going to spend $60,000 a year, and let's assume that that's level, that's a more conservative assumption. The fact that your spending may in reality go down, which is, may very well be true, a more conservative way to plan retirement is to assume it does not go down. But the reason we're presenting this reality is to relieve people of some of that worry and relieve people of some of that thinking that, geez, I don't have enough to retire, because many, in fact, do. So,
right, yeah,
you may need less than you think. You may be able to retire sooner, and you may be able to have a heck of a lot less worry. So, the key thing is to know where you're at and to track your expenses, so you have a really, really firm idea of what you do spend and what you'll need. And we're going to have a video showing you an easy way to track your expenses in 5 minutes a month, so that rather than guessing about your retirement, you'll be doing it from a position of certainty.
Now, also, Larry, while you're making a shameless plug for people to watch more of our videos and subscribe.
I am shameless. It's true.
Yes. I've known you for how many, 30, 40 years?
I'm shameless.
And nothing's changed in that regard. But at the same time, it's important to empower people to be able to run those projections. You showed those projections that couple went to the advisor to get. Well, we've done one video that shows people how to make those projections, and we're going to come out with another one shortly on the Monte Carlo system, which is much more accurate even than what you just showed, and very easy, and people can do it themselves. Yet another reason for people to subscribe and be made aware of those.
Very true.
options.
In my example, to keep it simple and explain the concept, that example used what I call straight line projections. We'll show something that's a little bit more, well, a lot more accurate using Monte Carlo simulation. And to make sure you see that, below the video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and then the little bell icon. So when you're logging onto YouTube, it'll come up and display that we have a new video, and you'll be able to see it and you'll be first. If you have a question, please leave it below in the comments. We will be sure to read those comments and supply answers so that you're getting all the information you need. Coming at you next time from the Retirement Crusaders.